Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Jaquetta Williams here, back with another episode for Patreon. So glad that you came. A lot of people think that they want to be entrepreneurs. They want to start their own business, but they have no idea of what that's actually like until they actually do it. Joining me now is a close personal friend of mine who has started her own business with her son. And when I tell you it's called Bakes by Dre, it is the best cake,
Oh,
pastries. And then here's the thing, y'all. It's got the audacity to be vegan. So you can feel like you're doing something bad, but not really. Welcome, my friend Marla. Hey, Marla.
hey, Jaquetta, how are
I'm
you?
so good. So let's jump right in. First, let's do the backstory of why you and your son decided that you wanted to have your own business.
So, back in, I guess it was 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, my son started baking as a hobby. And it turned into one of those things where people were asking him to bake things for him. I mean, for them. And they kept telling him how good it was. So it just kind of snowballed into a business, really. It really didn't start out to be that way, but you know how God does things. He
Yes, he
orchestrates
does.
our steps
Hmm.
and led us to a business, and we have been absolutely loving it.
So what did he specifically did he bake? Did he bake cakes, cookies? Kind of give me the rundown. Or was it any and everything?
So really, when he started, it was basically cakes and cookies.
Uh-huh.
Those were his two specialties. And they grew up, all of my kids grew up with me baking. And so Sunday dinner wasn't dinner if you didn't have a dessert, right? But I didn't think that they were paying attention. I thought they were just eating it. I didn't know that one of them was actually paying attention. And it's like I said, it started out as a stress reliever for him, and it just kind of snowballed. But yes, it started off with cakes and cookies. And what we initially started doing was doing festivals.
Hmm.
And so we would do festivals around the city, and people would like the products and they would be like, "Where y'all at?" And we had to say, "Nowhere." It's like if you don't catch us at a festival, you just won't catch us because we didn't have a spot to sell out of. And unfortunately, my neighborhood association would not allow us to have like food deliveries to really start a business. And
Oh.
I didn't want people coming to my house that I didn't know, right? And of course, Dre and I live separately, but because I'm in a home, my kitchen is bigger. And so we were licensed by the state with a cottage license so that we could participate in festivals and different community activities and be legal.
Hmm.
A lot
Of
of people
course.
out there baking that are not legal. But anyway, and so just happened to be riding down the street talking to the Lord one day. And I was like, Lord, we're in between a rock and a hard place. I'm like, because we don't have a place where we can sell from.
Hmm.
And people really like our products, but the festival thing is kind of getting old. And I
So
promise you,
pause right there. So when you said the festival thing was getting on, because I want people to really have a really broad view of how difficult this was. Because when you say festival, I'm sure people are thinking like a couple of a month, but no, you were like hitting it every weekend. In addition to the fact that you have a full time job and your son has a full time job.
yeah. And it wasn't quite every weekend, but it was really, really often. But here's the thing. In order for us to do what we did, we had to take really heavy appliances because we would bake cookies on site, which set us apart from a lot of the other vendors. Once you smell that hot chocolate chip cookie in the atmosphere, it's going to draw
Hmm.
you. And so we would have to take an oven, and not, of course, not a full size oven, but it was a pretty large oven.
Portable. Hmm.
Yes, portable oven. And we would have to take a deep freezer
Oh
because you
wow.
have to keep the cookie dough cold. And then also because we were taking cakes, we had to have a place in to keep the cakes cool, because you're in the open atmosphere in the festival, and normally they always manage to put us right in the sun for some
Hmm.
reason. And
Hmm.
so to keep the products fresh, to keep the icing from melting, we had to rotate them out, right? And so
Right.
we would have to carry not, and then you're not. We haven't even got to the tent and the tables and the this and the that, just to be able to set up and function. So it was quite a bit of work. And like you said, both of us have full-time jobs. So to do that on the weekend was quite taxing.
So talk about what made you decide to go from festivals, because the great news is now you actually have a physical store that you all are actually operating out of.
hmm So literally, like I said, I was driving in the neighborhood one day. I was going to the recyclable bin, and I was just talking to the Lord, and I was like, we're in a between a rock and a hard place. And literally, I kid you not, I turned my head to the left for no apparent reason, and there was a for rent sign in the window of this building. Because I told the Lord, I'm like, someplace right up in here would be nice. And literally, I kid you not, it was a for rent sign right in the window. And I did a U-turn in the middle of the street. There was another business beside it. I went in and talked to them. And so they were like, well, give the owner a call. And I did. And that's how we were able to get the building. It wasn't that we were looking for a building necessarily. It was just one of those God things. It was
Mhm.
God ordained, God timed. And that's how we got it.
So you've been, but you have specific hours too, because you're still working at limited capacity in some spaces because you have to bake your goods somewhere else, bring them to the brick and mortar,
Mm-hmm.
and then sell them. So it's not like it's the easiest still, but it's better than what it was.
Yes, it's definitely better than what it was because, people now have a place to come and we're able to take advantage of the delivery food apps, and we're just getting started with that. But no, it is not easy because the one good thing about where the shop is that it's in between Dre and I, and both of us only live like 5 minutes away from the shop. And so because we have to bake out of the house,
Mhm.
can't do large scale things. Like for instance, we don't offer specials like on cookies. So we sell them singularly, right?
Right.
And the reason why we do that is because if somebody were to come and say, okay, I want 6 cookies, well, that wipes us out, right? And
Mhm.
so for our other customers that may come in and want a cookie or what have you, we don't have the ability to go back into a kitchen and
Mhm.
bake
And
up a
just
bunch
cook them
of cookies
up.
and replenish it. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so it's limiting from that standpoint, but our customers have been very, very understanding and we try to accommodate them to the best of our ability. Now, we do take orders to do like whole cakes or maybe dozens of cookies. We can do that if someone places an order and gives us an advance notice, but just to walk into the shop, we don't have that capability to do that.
So what are the next steps? Because I'm sure being at limited capacity right now, it's working, but I'm sure that's going to get old really quickly as people see you, hear you, try your products.
Yes. And thank God the business is growing
Mhm.
and we get a lot of repeat customers. So we've been really blessed in that area. And literally, and this is not, trying to uh, you know, puff you up or anything like that. But literally, when you and I had that conversation and you were asking me, what's the next steps? What's the next steps? Well, what's keeping you from doing this? What's keeping you from doing that? I never really had thought it through.
Mhm.
And so when, because I really didn't think about, okay, what is the issue? Because it's not that, more hours would help us. And until we had that conversation and you kept probing with your journalistic background,
I can't help it.
Jay, I'm like that. Dequetta wouldn't let it go, and she just kept on till we got a solution. At least we got an answer to the question. So what happened was, in all seriousness, that conversation was able to make me think through what are our problems, and it is a capacity issue. So right now, because this is not quite a year yet, we really, since we're just being here a year, we really don't think it's wise to move yet.
Hmm.
because people are just now becoming aware that we're in the community, right? So we are building up a customer base of
Hmm.
people that are in the neighborhood and the surrounding area. And so what we're planning to do is to look for another spot, but keep this location
Oh, so you're gonna do two
as well.
locations?
We're gonna do two locations. Yes, by
Yeah.
the grace of God, we're gonna do two locations.
Good.
So that's what the game plan is right now. Our lease is up in April, and we'll be in the negotiation process for that in February. She requires a 60-day notice, and so we're just going to, pray and trust God and look for another building that would have a commercial kitchen attached to it, so that we can do both.
And of course, if you're watching this, I'm sure you're probably wondering where the location is, what all they sell. I promise we're going to have all of that information in the description box below. So you'll be sure to know exactly where this is, where you can go get you some as well. So, Marla, let's talk about entrepreneurship and owning your own business, because you made a point of, some things you hadn't even thought out of or crafted out or considered. What do you say to people who want to start their own business, but then I'm keeping it honest, you're starting a business and you're not in your 20s?
Yes, yes. So the good news is it's really Dre's vision and Dre's baby, right? And when he started, of course, there was so much going on with him trying to work and him trying to sell his products that I, like most mothers, said, I'm going to help you. And so that's how I got engaged in it. Now, to be honest with you, Jaquetta, I had started like about 99,000 business in my life.
Uh-huh.
I was younger. And when it started getting rough, it's like, when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Yes.
That didn't quite work the way it was supposed to for me. When the going got tough, the tough got going the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really did have the stick and stay power.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm older, and I was a marketing major in school, so now that I'm older, I like the marketing end of it. So while he's focused on the business and the baking, I like to get involved in the marketing. But now, since it's just the two of us, I do a lot of the baking. I
Mm-hmm.
work in the store as well. So it is different. But you know what, though? It has been the greatest blessing for me to know that I have, well, part owner, but to know that I have something, or we have something of our own. It has done so much for our family in
Like
terms
what?
like in terms of them being proud that they have a business owner in the family, in terms of them being proud that it's a store in the heart of our community,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of them now saying, okay, well, maybe I should try to move forward on this desire that I've had and just never really had the seriousness about it to start, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's done a lot for us. And then, so here's the deal for me. Um, we're in the heart of young business owners. And like you said, I'm a seasoned saint. And to see the young people out there actually trying, and to be able to impart wisdom that comes from being older,
Mm-hmm.
not maybe necessarily business wisdom, but just wisdom in life, period,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and for me, a lot of them feel comfortable coming and talking to me.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, and so it's a blessing at this age and stage to now realize that my role has shifted. Now, the Bible says that the older women are supposed to train the younger. So I look at my role as being someone there that can give them some seasoned wisdom and some guidance, not just in business, but in life,
Mm-hmm.
period.
But
And
I'm
I
sure you're learning from them too, as well,
oh,
because
I
there's a
am.
lot that, yeah.
am I learning? Especially, I'm kind of, well, I am challenged with social media and technology and those sort of things.
Right.
And, to be able to see what they're doing and, to learn what they're doing, even in terms of marketing, even in terms of being able to get the business more in step,
Right.
with what's going on with technology. Dre can do some of it, but then again, most of his time is focused on his job, on the baking aspect of it, and of course on the shop as well. So it's been a blessing. And you're right, it has been two ways. It's been two
Hmm.
ways.
So
So, but
did so for people who want to start their own businesses, no matter what it is, did you all have to have seed money, or did you just say, you know what, we bake, let's just get it started and we'll figure it out as we go?
so one of the things that I think is really, really challenging for somebody that wants to be an entrepreneur is information.
Hmm.
You really need to do research. I mean, there is so much that it involves in terms of just the legal aspect, making sure that you're set up right. Should you be a sole proprietor? Should you be an LLC? Should you be a partner? Should you be an S corp? It's just so much. And then there's work for the state, paperwork for the state that you have to do. There's paperwork for the city that you're in. And sometimes there's even paperwork for the county. And we make
Wow.
a lot of mistakes. And that's what the one thing is. We said we wish that we would have had someone to kind of help us through the process. So I would say to somebody considering becoming an entrepreneur is first go sit and talk to somebody.
Hmm.
Talk to somebody that's doing what you're doing, or talk to somebody that knows what it would take to even get started with the paperwork. Sit down and talk to somebody. And in Atlanta, I'm gonna tell you, there are some great resources. The Rice Center, it's called the Russell Innovation for, let's see, the Russell Innovative Center for Entrepreneurs, I think is the way it is, but it's the
Okay.
acronym RICE, and I'll get that the exact title for you.
Sure.
But they are a wealth of information for entrepreneurs. They have everything over there from an office with the Small Business Administration to,
Hmm.
I mean, any level of business that you can think of is there. So that's what I would say. First of all, do some research, know what the legalities are,
Hmm.
and then talk to somebody who's done what you're trying to do. So we've been blessed along the way to have people that are at levels where we're striving to go, that we've
Hmm.
connected with, and they have been more than willing to share what they've learned on the journey with us, which helps to make it a little easier.
How do you not get discouraged? Because I'm sure somebody who's listening and watching, particularly if they're older and they, always had a dream in mind, but then when you think about all of the things that you just mentioned that you have to know, that alone might be enough to make somebody just think, maybe not.
So here's the thing. So anything worth having is worth fighting for.
Hmm.
And in life, we all know that there's going to be struggles.
Yeah.
There's gonna be ups, there's going to be downs. There's going to be times when things are going well, when things are not going so well.
Yeah.
And for me, what I go back to my faith in a
Oh.
period right now
Mhm.
where I think because of the weather, people are not out as much,
Right.
and then it gets dark earlier. We're slow, and it's been financially challenging.
Mm.
There's been some weeks where we haven't made enough money that would meet our bills. And so that's been challenging and it has been discouraging. But I know that this is what God has ordained for us. And I go back to the word where it says, if you can be faithful in a little, then I'll make you ruler of the much. So the little means whatever comes with it, whether it's challenging, whether it's a financial issue. I think for to really be able to sustain, you have to be able to go back and say, I know this is what I'm meant to do. And I know that if I just hang in there, things will turn around.
But
So,
sometimes you do have to pivot. Sometimes it's not, not that it can't work, but sometimes you may not be working whatever you're doing in the way that you need to. So, we do know that you can hang in there, but I also want, to make people aware, for people who own their own business,
oh,
who
sure,
did
sure,
have
sure.
to pivot. They had to pivot. Let me ask this though. So what is, when you do find that you're not able to make, build or payroll or what have you considered other ways, meaning, how do you use social media, or do you, do any kind of sales or gifting or large events? Does that sustain?
Yeah. So you're right with the pivoting. You do have to think of other ways to help try to increase business. So one of the things that we have started with the food apps, and that's helping.
Mhm.
That's helping a lot, because the foot traffic just isn't there. But we're finding that people do order and off of the food delivery apps, and that is really helping out. I think the other thing is, um like you said, being willing to pivot is a big deal.
Yeah.
We're looking at some other options because the price of things is getting so expensive.
Yep.
And so we are looking at other things that we might want to sell, where the ingredients may not be as expensive.
Right.
Um,
Because you do
but
have a lot of vegan options, right? And I know
Well,
vegan.
we do have vegan options, but we do sell more traditional. Um,
Okay.
we do have some vegan options that, for some reason, that hasn't quite caught on as well as we thought that it would. But it may be that we need to do more marketing in that area.
Hmm.
But yes, we do offer vegan. But we may have to pivot to selling more breads,
Mm.
instead of cakes, which require sugar and a lot of butter and a lot of eggs. Those
Right.
are getting to be so expensive. But yeah, you do have to be flexible and willing to turn. But you can still do that
Hmm.
in what you're doing. That doesn't mean that
Absolutely.
you have to go outside and try to find something else.
It
But
doesn't mean stop, it just means pivot. That's
it
all.
pivot. Yeah,
So what is your goal? Like, what is your if you could dream it up or draw it up, where would you want to see Bakes by Dre? Like, what's your vision for it?
so I'd like to see Bakes by Dre become a franchise.
Mm.
And I would like to see Bakes by Dre in our communities across the country. That's the picture, that's the goal that I have in mind. And I it's not that I mean, we love everybody, we serve everybody, we want everybody to come to the shop.
Of course.
But I don't feel like people that live in my community should have to drive up to the north side of town to get a good piece of cheesecake or a good piece of red velvet cake or a good piece of or chocolate cookie or whatever. I believe that we should have the conveniences and the quality that every other community has, and they should be able to come and buy from people that look like them.
Hmm.
So that is really the goal, is to be able to have those types of shops in communities across the country that look like us. And here's the thing too, with being older, where this comes in. I am a firm believer, and I've taught my kids this as well, is that people deserve respect, they deserve kindness. When you come into a store and a clerk ignores you, I just had that happen the other week. I'm
Hmm.
standing there and it doesn't even seem like they're noticing that I'm in the store. I'm standing at the counter. I shouldn't have to be treated like that to be able to spend my money someplace.
Hmm.
And so, with what we do, when anybody comes into that shop, we welcome them. We appreciate them. We treat them with courtesy and respect. We want them to know that we value your patronage, and we're going to treat you as such. And I
Hmm.
would love to see that in communities all across the country where we train our employees. Listen, this is the way we expect to be treated when we go someplace.
Hmm.
Is the way we expect our customers to be treated when they come in here. I can't tell you how many times people have come into the store and said to me, well, I went over to such and so for lunch, and I'll never go back in there again. And I'm like,
Hmm.
why? And they're like, well, for one thing, they were rude. For another thing, the employees acted like they didn't want to be there, and they treated me like they didn't want to be there. And people shouldn't feel like that to spend their money, right?
Right.
And so those are the types of things that we would like to make sure that in stores across the country, whenever somebody comes in, they get the same experience as they would get when they come into our shop in historic College Park.
Is this where you want to retire, or would you still like to ultimately work and, well, I guess basically you're working two jobs, or would you like to at some point retire from one and focus on just baking?
Yes, at some point I would. I really would.
Hmm.
I enjoy the business and the marketing aspect of it. I have been around some phenomenal people in some phenomenal places. Just making contacts with other business owners. I have a business strategy meeting tomorrow evening, as a matter of fact, in historic College Park in the city, with some other business owners in the area. And I love that. It's like my blood just starts boiling, right? When
Yeah.
I'm in those types of atmospheres. I love my job. I love my job. I love the people I work with. I love what I do. But everything is seasonal, right?
Hmm.
And I think I'm coming to that age and stage in my life where I am ready for a shift where I can do something that completely validates me,
Hmm.
and I can do and feel like I'm making a difference. So
And you're
yes,
contributing
yes,
in
and
a
so
way that is important for you.
yes, so
Tell
yes.
us where Bakes by Dre is located.
Bakes by Dre is located at 1860 Harvard Avenue in historic College Park. So we're right off of Main Street. There's a little train depot. That's one of the major attractions, I guess, or landmarks that people would know. But we're right on Harvard Avenue, right off of Main Street in historic College Park.
And your operating hours are very specific. Tell us what those are too.
So we're open on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we open from midnight. Mm-mm. We open.
Take two.
Cut. Whew, that was a senior moment. No, we're open from 4 to 8 on Fridays. We're open from noon to 8 on Saturdays, and we're open from noon to 6 on Sundays.
Wonderful. And this is the last question that I'm going to ask you, Marla. And I ask a lot of people when we sit down and chat. What do you love about being Black?
Oh man, what do I love about being Black? Hmm. I love, oh my goodness. I think that's a loaded question because I love everything about being Black. I love the culture. I love the history. I love the fact that God specifically created me with this ethnicity and this skin tone, and from a people that are so strong
Hmm.
and resilient and family oriented. I just love, and I love the when we can get together collectively, and all of the different ideas that come from the history of us being Black in America. I love the fact that the Lord thought I was special enough to create me to be a part of this people and a part of this culture.
And I think that'll do it. Marla, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I thank you for taking the time. And again, if you want to know more about Bakes by Dre, I'm going to definitely have all that information for you. You got to go by there and taste some of what they have to offer because I promise you, you won't forget it. Marla, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jaquetta. I certainly appreciate it. Love you.
You're